Welcome to the organizational meeting, January 4th, 6 p.m. for our regular scheduled organizational board meeting for the year. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Over here. Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is oath of office for our new members, including myself, who were elected this last November. So we all take the oath first before we kind of officially start the meeting. So, Carrie, if you want.
Do you solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as board members of the Anthony Wayne Local School District, Lucas County, Ohio, to the best of your abilities and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? If so, answer, I do. Congratulations.
All right, our next item is the actual call to order. So if we will have Mrs. Johnson call the roll.
Mr. Baden?
Here.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer? Here. Ms. McKnight? Here. Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Stom?
Here. Thank you. So this meeting is full of board organizational items, which is the first on the agenda. I'm serving tonight as pro tem president until we elect a official president, which is the first item on the agenda. So I will ask for nominations for board president.
I would like to,
You gotta be acknowledged first, sorry. Shelley?
I would like to nominate Jeff Baden for president.
Thank you. Is there a second? I can second, can I? Did you?
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah. I'll second that. Is there any other nominations for president?
I would like to nominate Kyle.
Kyle? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Lindsay? So procedurally, you just go in order? We take a vote on each? or-
Right, and we'll take a vote on the first nomination and then on the second nomination.
Okay. So you want to call,
Yep, you ready?
For the first nomination.
this is for Jeff
Yes.
for president?
Yeah, Mr. Baden?
Yes?
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
No.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
No.
Mr. Stom?
No.
Okay, we'll vote for Mr. Miller. Mr. Baden?
No.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. McKnight?
No.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And Mr. Stom?
Yes.
All right, motion passes for Kyle to be president. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I guess I have another question. Do I do the second one still? Or does he-
Actually,
No.
Yeah,
I would do it. Oh,
I hand you the gavel.
Yeah.
thank you,
Take
sir.
over the, yes.
All right. Well, with that, we'll then do a nomination to elect the board vice president. Do I have any nominations? Shelley?
I would like to nominate Jeff Baden for vice president, please.
Nomination for Jeff Baden. Is there any other nominations?
Yeah, you need a second first.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Second?
I will second that.
Perfect. Second. And then is there any other nominations for vice president? All right, Carrie, can you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stamm?
Yes.
All right. Now is the oath of office for the president and vice president.
Do you solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as President and Vice President of the Anthony Wayne Local School District, Lucas County, Ohio, to the best of your abilities and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? If so, answer, I do.
All right. All right, next is item D, establishing school board meetings, dates of 2024, which we have a printout for each of you, if you guys are okay with that. And then item E, standing authorizations for board meeting items. Item F, school attorney services, which we all got that from our agenda minutes. Feel free to look those over if you haven't already. Membership of the Board of Education. Item B. Item H is committee assignments, which we all got that from Jeff. Should we give a printout of that?
Yep.
Was that at your desk or not? I know it's in board docs.
Yeah, I knew it was in board docs as well. I didn't know if
It was
was.
emailed this morning too, yeah.
Yep, an email
Yeah,
this
there it is,
morning.
yeah.
If everyone is in agreement of that, I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Shelley, I need a second.
Second.
Lindsay in a second. Carrie, can you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
Yes.
Mrs. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stamm?
Yes.
All right. Now, number 5, Board of Education minutes. It's, approval to sign the Board of Education minutes from our previous meeting, which we didn't have one, so, well, for D, or for December.
Yeah, we had the 11th and the 14th,
11th
so
and
we're
the
approving 2.
Yep. So, do I have a motion to approve those minutes, or any questions on those?
I'll move.
Lindsay moves. And a second.
I will second.
And Mike. Carrie, can you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stamm?
Yes.
All right. Item 6, Treasurer's Report. Carrie?
Thank you. The first item on the agenda this evening is to approve the monthly financials for December 2023, as presented in your agenda this evening. Under item B is to approve the donations as listed. We're always very appreciative of those. We do have the Monclova staff that collected $1,000 to create a scholarship for Robbie Spanbauer, so you'll be approving that fund later on the agenda, but I did want to point that out, but we're always very appreciative of the donations that we receive. Sorry. Under item C is to approve the Ohio Education Policy Institute for 2024. This is a cost of $1,500. I don't think this price has changed since we have been a member with that organization, so I would ask that you approve that membership. And then item D is to approve the scholarship fund that I just highlighted under the donations for Robbie Spanbauer. And that is all I have at this time. Yeah, actually, yes. Let me go ahead and add. I do want to go ahead. I think we shared in our conversations that we need to get a meeting date on the calendar for next week. So I would like to get actually one on the calendar for next week and then the following week as well.
Special.
Yeah, this would be, well, it was going to be
Session,
for a
I'm
work session, but it's treated like a special meeting, just no
I would
citizens input.
like to say that I think that meeting, holding a meeting next week would be unfair since I will not be able to attend, and could we possibly postpone it till the 15th, which is a work day? I mean, it's a closed school day, but we could have a meeting. I think if I will not be here, that's kind of unfair to have a discussion of something so important without all members being here.
Would you be able to zoom in?
I cannot.
The situation that we're faced with, and it's not that I disagree with that at all. The situation is the timeline we're under with ODE. We are meeting with them weekly now, and we have a meeting on Monday morning that we were hoping to postpone because we want to have a meeting, but we have another meeting with them next Friday. So we're trying to work with them to get this plan presented and prepared, and there's just a lot of information, but
And we could meet the week of the 15th or 16th. It's just a matter of, obviously, we would need to probably meet twice that week to
What
get
about
this-
on Monday morning? My flight does not leave until 10. I could possibly
it's-
come from the
It'd be
airport.
awful early because you'd have to get up to the airport.
Yeah.
I know. I'm going to be out the door at 6, but
you have to leave here at 10, or your
that
flight's at 10?
flight leaves at 10. I'll leave my house at 6. I'll get to the airport at 7. So from 7 on until I get on, I mean, I could.
Zoom
That's
in
a
there.
possibility.
Okay, so you could zoom in then.
On the 8th. I think it's important to give ourselves time to kind of have our initial meeting, walk through
Process
stuff.
it.
We're going to have some follow-ups. We're going to have some stuff to do. You'll be back the next week
Yes.
to get the final.
I'll be back
We're not
Saturday.
making final
Decision or
decisions
anything.
that week, that first week. There's going to be some homework and some more stuff to do, so. And maybe just to back up too, it's concerning the whole, the levy and the 5-year forecast plan as to how we accomplish getting back to
Have a
being
positive cash balance.
positive cash flow for the next few years. So that's what the work session is for, to walk through those plans that we have to submit back to the state. So,
I'll briefly discuss that.
Yeah.
in just a few minutes.
I could get emails on my phone as
Yeah.
well.
okay.
That's a possibility.
I could do early morning on the 8th if that's,
Works with us, as long as
Okay.
it works for everybody else.
I can make that work.
Okay.
What time are we all feeling?
Are you saying possibly 8 o'clock then?
Do 8 o'clock.
Do you want to do earlier,
Or
or is 8 o'clock
I'll
good?
I'll be driving and going through TSA.
Okay,
Just do 8 o'clock.
okay, we can do
For
8
everybody
o'clock.
else.
Yep.
yep.
Do we want to set up one for the following week as well then, while we're,
Yes, that-
Okay.
What would be easiest for administration for your meetings as well?
We can make any of those days work, the 16th, 17th, 18th, or the 19th.
oh, I thought you said,
Earlier the better, though. I'd say possibly the 16th, if that works for everybody else. No? 17th then,
do that
Wednesday?
one, 17th.
if that would work.
17th then?
17th work for everybody?
What time works?
Morning.
And what time are we talking on the 17th?
Can we do 8 o'clock again?
Absolutely.
Or earlier, if that helps anybody.
Yeah.
or-
well,
Earlier would be better for me, but I can
Okay.
make it work.
About 7:30?
7:30?
7:30 works.
7:30.
Is that better? Good.
For both, or just that one?
We could do both at 7:30. Okay.
Works for me, so.
7:30
Catch you up. We'll
or
catch
8?
you
Go
up.
ahead and send.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Okay, so we'll have a work session on January 8th at 7:30 and January 17th at 7:30.
I don't think I can make that 7:31 on the 8th. I know I'll be going, I'll get to the airport 7, probably get through TSA by 7:35, 7:45, I think.
Can we do 8
We can do
Eight.
eight.
Let's do, can we do
Okay.
eight, please? Thank you so much.
Okay. Now with that, that's all I
All
have.
right, perfect. Is there any questions on the treasurer's report? If not, I need a motion to approve.
I'll move.
All right, do I have a second?
I will second.
Carrie, can you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Hockemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stom?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 7, superintendent's educational reports and recommendations.
Thank you. First, just want to say thank you to all of you to serve this district and board members, and we appreciate the fact that you decided to do that, especially under the circumstances that we've had over the last couple of years. So we do thank you for choosing to be a member of the school board and serving the students and the parents in this community. So thank you very much for that. Next, we actually have a presentation about student intervention, instructional intervention. And I'm going to actually turn it over to them. I'm going to put the presentation up there on the board. So if you guys want to come on up, there's a mic right here. And if you want to stand over here and do your presentation from over there, if that works for you, we'd appreciate it. So it's a little, there you go. Chris, what's that again? Command F1. Command F1. There we go.
We good to go?
Yep.
All right. First of all, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group of people standing behind us. Thank you to the board for offering us this time to speak tonight. Thank you for all of you in attendance. As a member of the school system, it's really, really great to see people engaged in the school system. So thank you for that. Tonight, we're going to share a little bit of information about what we refer to as our multi-tiered systems of support. In education, we love to shorten everything, though, so you're going to hear us refer to this as MTSS the rest of the evening. So this is something that I'm going to be honest, the group behind me, this is what we live, breathe, think about all day, and probably have nightmares and celebration dreams at night as well of. So we're very, very familiar with the process, so we're going to try to explain it to you as best as we can, and also show the value behind it. As many of you know here, the mission of Anthony Wayne is to empower students to be future ready, and we want to do that by giving them a solid foundation. And we're pretty strong believers that this MTSS program is part of building that foundation for our students in our buildings and offering them success. So before we get into any more detail, though, I'm going to step aside and I'm going to allow this team behind me to introduce who they are, so you can go ahead and put names to faces, and then we will get started.
I'm Rachel Burt, instructional coach at Monclova Primary.
I'm Carrie Fatzinger, instructional coach at Fallen Timbers Middle School.
I'm Stephanie Buckmeyer. I'm one of the assistant principals at the junior high and the high school, and I help oversee, and part of what I do is our MTSS at the two buildings.
Hi, I'm Courtney Carroll. I am the instructional coach at Waterville Primary.
Ashley Gittens, I'm the instructional coach at the junior high.
Chris Parks, I am the intervention coach at the high school.
And I'm Andrea Donnelly. I'm the intervention coach at White House Primary. I have to admit, y'all are a lot taller than the people I normally work with, and I never speak into a mic, so I apologize. This is really weird. So, and if I'm really loud, I apologize. So, but basically, our MTSS program is we take a look at every student in our district, and we start to say, what do they need? So we look at K through 12. We start with a system of normed assessments, and we start to identify, okay, we have kiddos that have certain needs, and are there ways that we can address skill gaps that they have? So several times a year, you're going to hear about some screening methods we use, and then we identify the skill gaps that are present in certain students, and then we go ahead and go through data and through different various sources that we have to develop intervention plans to support these students in those areas of need. So for those of us that are here at Anthony Wayne, this pyramid/triangle is something that we deal with often. We just want to go ahead and point out to you that the MTSS process is a tiered process. So At the Tier 1 level, that is every student that is at Anthony Wayne. So when they are in their core general education instruction, that's what they're receiving. They're receiving that Tier 1 instruction. When we start to refer to our MTSS program, then in the supports we provide, that's when we start to look at our Tier 2 and our Tier 3 support. So within those, we're addressing kids and their needs in small groups, and then if needed, we look at more specific interventions that might come in a one-on-one setting. We would like to highlight, though, for those of you that are familiar, this process is running at the same time we have other supports happening in the district, and that's where we're in the world of special education and individualized education plans and 504s. Those are running at the same time, but are different than what we speak about within our MTSS programs. So, but.
And we thought it was important to kind of show how this program has changed over the years, and I wanted to start with the primary buildings, especially because when I started at Anthony Wayne 11 years ago, it was the first year we had gone to the model of having part-time tutors in the building. So that was substitute teachers doing 4 days a week of small group intervention, pull-out instruction to fill those gaps. And the last 3 years, then we've pulled in the intervention coaches, and just to see the difference in our programming over those years from both perspectives was kind of amazing to see in the last 3 years and how far we have come and what that looks like in the buildings. So in the primary buildings, I want to kind of talk about what it looks like now and where we have grown over the years. So like I said, we started out with just the tutors in the building part-time, so only 4 days a week. With the intervention coaches, we can now add that 5th day to give even more support to students that need it. Excuse me, I'm going to check really quick. And we were able to then do a lot more with those students. I'm going to kind of refer back to that pyramid that was up there for a while. So we do a lot of Tier 2. That's kind of our jam is that Tier 2. But then with the intervention coaches, we can add in that Tier 3, those kids that just need a little more practice. So they get the extra time that gets pulled out, and we now have the ability to do that with more coaches and staff that can pull those students for those times. And so they get more exposure to those foundational skills, and we can fill those gaps before they have to go to special education services, because we are responding immediately and intensively. Also, it is a law now that we have to do a structured literacy program, and that has gone leaps and bounds for us, and that has allowed us to make sure that we are providing intervention that is fair to all students, and we are intervening early, and it has to be aligned to the science of reading and what's developmentally appropriate for young students. And I will say, when we first started, we were doing the best we could, but now we have more training, we know better, so we're doing better. So we now are, in response to third grade reading guarantee and the dyslexia legislation, which we'll kind of talk about later, we're now able to screen all of our students in the primary building, and then we are able to work as a team to decide what the plan is for those students, and then we work alongside our tutors, form that plan, and make sure that those interventions are working and growing. So now our students are receiving instruction and access to high-quality curriculum that they deserve, and the MTSS framework that we're using is really the backbone to that and helps them fill those gaps and be ready for the future. And I'm going to pass it on to Carrie, who's going to add.
I'm going to speak on FT's behalf. I'm Carrie Fatzinger. I've been at FT for 19 years. I've literally grown up at FT. So I have a huge love for the building. But I've seen so many changes over the years that I've been there, but I can easily say that one of the most impactful changes I have seen in my 19 years is the addition of an intervention coach, which is the role I have filled the last 2 years. And I feel that it's so impactful because it really affects every student and all students. And FT is a unique building. We are the first transition for students going from 4th to 5th. We're also their second transition from 6th to 7th. And those of us with students know that those are big years. Those are major transitions. And we feel that we now, with the help of intervention coaches, we are able to make that transition much more streamlined. And we are able to give ourselves a universal language to speak from the primaries to the FT, to the junior high. And it just provides us with consistent documentation and communication, making that experience for the students much more beneficial and efficient. And that universal language includes a lot of different things. One of the things it includes is that norm-referenced benchmarking and progress monitoring assessments for both math, reading, phonics, fluency. We touch on all of it now. We have the ability to do that now. And we are able to identify those students' strengths and weaknesses and then build intervention to help every student, all of them. We now have also the ability to do frequent and consistent intervention and tutoring for math, reading, and phonics at a specified time in the day that does not interrupt their band schedule, their choir schedule. We were not able to do that before. There were certain students that may not have been receiving everything they needed because of the scheduling, but now with an intervention coach, that's part of my job. I schedule, I organize, and make sure that all kids are getting that uninterrupted time for that intervention that they need for all students. Something else that has improved over the years is our communication, and that's communication within the building. We now have quarterly meetings that includes the MTSS team, and that is teachers, intervention coach, administrators, counselors, school psychologists. We all meet quarterly to discuss individual students and their data and how they're growing and how they're progressing, and we have the ability to make changes for that student throughout the school year. The communication also, that applies to from primaries to junior high as well. I feel like I'm kind of the middleman in a lot of situations, and I meet with the primary intervention coaches, I meet with Stephanie and the junior high school intervention coaches, and just providing that experience for those students and making it so much more efficient and beneficial for them. On the lines of communication, we've also been able, with intervention coaches, been able to improve our communication with parents, that home to school communication. As an intervention coach, I mail home letters. Anytime a student is entered into the program, the MTSS program, they get letters anytime a student changes between tiers, because they can change between tiers throughout the year. So improving that communication between home and school, I think, has been hugely beneficial in creating success for students. And finally, something that has come across the last 2 years is we now have consistent digital documentation for every single student. Intervention coaches, I fill out and share between the buildings specific documentation that details what those students, the interventions they're receiving, how often, the size of the group, specifically what they are receiving, and that information is now transferred from the primary to FT, from FT to junior high. And again, so when teachers in those transition years, when we get new students, we're not starting from ground zero. We can pick up right where we left off, right where the previous year teacher left off, the previous intervention coach and tutors left off. So I think we have grown so much over the last couple years, especially in this program that really does benefit all students, because every student is screened and every student is benchmarked.
Thank you, Carrie. And absolutely, as she referenced our communication between buildings, I cannot describe to you how much that has improved in these last few years. So working in grades 7-12, my role in this is largely to kind of oversee a lot of the data for realistically half the students of our district is in grades 7 and 12. Since we've implemented our intervention coaching positions, we now have a much more robust communication, a much more robust data-driven decision-making process. In years past at grades 7-12, our tutors that we did have in the buildings were largely helping students who weren't getting homework done. And instead, we are now able to identify learning gaps from their younger years and fill in those learning gaps. And we're going to talk about a little bit how we do that later. We're able to do that now and help them continue to have a more robust experience throughout their entire education, preparing them not just for graduation, but for the skills that they're going to need once they walk across our graduation stage when they graduate. So we do a lot of screening of these skills. We make these data-driven decisions. If you can go to the next slide real quick. There we go. The skills we largely are looking at for our entire program is our math skills. So we have cases where a student may not understand some foundational things that they would have learned in middle school in math, maybe fractions, maybe they're struggling with fractions, but yet they're in a high school algebra or geometry classroom. As you can imagine, if you have missing foundational skills, that's going to impact what you're trying to learn in the upper grades. In reading, maybe you aren't sure how the letter sounds blend together, and as the vocabulary gets more and more challenging, that's going to impact not just your English class, but in all reality, all of your classes. So we're helping to identify those skills. Executive functioning is another thing that we start screening. We're looking at things like organization, time management, self-starting, which is one of those self-regulating behaviors. Is a student able to start an assignment or a task independently without consistent prompting? So we're looking at a lot of those executive functioning skills and identifying where are those gaps in their abilities and how can we help fill those gaps in along the way. So those are some of the things that we do and some of the ways that we screen. And I'm going to kick it over to Ashley to talk about how we screen for some of these things to identify what interventions that students may need.
So as Stephanie mentioned, our screening process in MTSS contains a variety of assessments so that it's appropriate for students at all grade levels and the content that we're assessing. You'll notice the most common assessment across the board, K through 12, is our STAR assessment. That assessment gives us information about their math and their reading abilities. Are they at grade level? Are they below grade level? Are they way above grade level? And we give that assessment 4 times a year, K through 12. So it also allows us to track their progress. If there's a student with us from kindergarten to 12th grade, we get to see their growth and see where their needs are. The assessment, the STAR assessment specifically gives us insight into the specific skills that they might be missing so that we can build targeted instruction and hit those skills that they need. We also use the Ohio State test scores. That's what OST stands for. The students take those tests in the spring. I'm sure any parent in the room is very aware of when they take their state test scores. And we get that data and we use that in our decision making as well. The younger grades, K through 6, they use a program called DIBBLES, that is Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. Thank you, I'm in the junior high, so we don't use that over there. But they use that assessment to help understand where the student is in their foundation of reading, where are those skills at. And then in the upper grades, we use the OST projections and the ACT projections. Those numbers give us a glimpse at where the student is going to be testing when they enter junior year of high school, senior year of high school. Where are they most likely going to land if we don't intervene right now? So we use those data points a lot. If you could flip to the next slide for me. Right now, this school year, we have served across the 6 of us full-time intervention coaches and our building tutors. We've been able to serve over 1,000 students between math, reading, and their executive functioning skills. The percentages you're seeing on the screen represent the number of students across the whole student body. So just under 5% of all of our students in the district have received math intervention. K through 12. 16% have received reading intervention through our tiered process, and just under 2% have received executive functioning assistance. When we think about students in the MTSS program, we think about their learning journey as kind of like building a brick wall. When they're learning concepts through grade 1, grade 3, grade 5, and they're having learning experiences at school, it's like adding bricks to that wall. And these assessments and this process allows us to target where those gaps might be, where a brick might have fallen out, where a brick might have been misplaced. And then we get to see where that hole is and target that specifically so that we can fill that gap and they can be more successful down the road and ready for any of those assessments, ready for graduation, ready for anything that comes after. So I'm going to pass this along.
How y'all doing? It's a lot, right? It's a lot. It's a lot. So let's try to get specific for just a little bit so you can maybe hone in on something. So for example, what you're going to see up on the board is we're talking individual students. So we're not talking about a group of students, hey, we're just going to throw y'all in here and shoot for the middle and see what we can do. So after we look at benchmark data, for example, at White House, we're going to look at a kiddo, and I'm going to look at a profile and say, okay, here's the deal. This student has already had a need identified for speech and language. So that's where you see the star at the top. That's in that IEP special education. So they already have that. It's an area that's being worked on and being supported with our speech pathologists. Good things are happening. Through, though, our analysis of the benchmark data that we pulled, we saw, hey, guess what? This kid is a rock star in math. It's a strength. So we're just going to continue to support him in Tier 1, give him the great quality instruction that he's getting in the classroom, and then keep an eye on him. However, we notice in our benchmark data, we're starting to see some areas of weakness in reading. okay? This is a kiddo that's gone through a couple years, and so his foundational skills of letter identification, sound identification, those were there. But now in that moment of starting to put it together, there's a little bit of struggle. So what we have done is we've identified him as a student that, hey, we're going to go ahead and support you at the Tier 2 level. We're going to bring you into a small group. We're going to really hone in on those skills that you are showing a little bit of an opportunity that we can strengthen up for you, strengthen that wall. And then we're going to track, and we're going to see how it goes, and we're going to review data, and we're going to check progress, and then we're going to make a decision. Do we need to continue to support, or was that just what was needed? Just a little bit, and then they're good to go, or, hey, we're going to follow you for a little bit. I often tell the kids that I see, I have the benefit of being in an elementary building for 5 years, and so I tell some of the kids, hey, guess what? You're going to see me for a while. Because when you meet them in kindergarten or first grade, they start to learn that, hey, there's people here that support me, and they want to see me grow and succeed. So just as a singular example of a kiddo that might be serviced underneath the MTSS process. Again, it could be in any sort of compilation or anything like that, but hoping it offers a little bit of clarification on some of that. So.
All right, now I'll talk to you. So I am just going to give you a very general idea of what our roles are as intervention coaches. Yes, we assess all of that data, but we are also the centerpiece of communication for all of those team members up there for the MTSS team. So communicating with teachers, parents, other school staff, all of that. But more specifically, our biggest role is planning specific instruction based on those specific needs students have, and really hammering home what they're missing instead of a more general idea of what we're supposed to get done, more what students need.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I have the super exciting part, the legal requirements that we as instructional coaches really fulfill for the district. So House Bill 33, I'm also the one that gave 2 extra handouts. Sorry about that. I'm a nationally board certified teacher, not a lawyer or a doctor, so I always try and refer to the good documents that come to us from ODE and the OSBA. I think that's where the single page came from. So what's required from House Bill 33? Well, it's that high dosage tutoring. It's required with the Reading Improvement Monitoring Plan. We call those RIMPs. It's another one of our lovely acronyms. So that high dosage is just that, 30 minutes, 3 times a week, greater than or equal to 50 hours over 36 weeks. Just did a little math. We all love our data. We just hit 25 hours. Good job. We're making our way through halfway through the school year. So this tutoring must include these things. So we just talked about the high dosage model. What we do, like Chris said, we collect all that data. We then take that data, we align it with our materials that we have. We plan the instruction, we distribute it out to our tutors and to our teacher helpers, and we collaborate with them to see, what are you teaching in the classroom? We're going to double dose that for this kiddo in a smaller group size. That might be the delivery mode that we see is best for them. We're scanning all the kids, so we need to prioritize who's going to get that scheduling. We look at that data and we say, okay, these 6 from here, these 3 from over here, we have to look at that. And of course, we collect that data. We have a lot of systems that collect the data for us, which is great. It's all right there at your fingertips. But what do? We are the professionals. We provide the expertise. We go in, we dig into that data, we analyze it, we describe it. We almost take it and diagnose, like, what could we give for this instance to take care of this? What might just be a little fever in reading right now. Let's just get over that with this little diagnosis. However, there are big diagnoses, which is our next slide. A big requirement of the legislation is about dyslexia and identifying our students who have dyslexic tendencies. A big misconception of dyslexia is that it's a medical diagnosis. Most medical doctors are not trained in the science of reading, writing, phonemic awareness, phonics, and those things. If they are, of course, then they can diagnose, but it's usually coming as a specific learning disorder in children, as noted up there. One of my favorite authors of overcoming dyslexia is Sally Shaywitz. She has just been the forefront in dyslexia research. I'd love to come and talk to you about that anytime. But she says this, and this describes our kids to a T. One thing we know for certain about dyslexia, or kids in Tier 2, is that it's one area of difficulty in a sea of strengths. So we use these multimodal activities to meet their individual learning needs. And we move forward with that dyslexia by screening all of our primary kids. So we've already screened all of our first through third graders. We are going to, in the next few weeks, screen all of our kindergartners. Now that they've had a good base of Tier 1 instruction, we're going to screen all of them to see how are they doing. And also, how are we doing, right? So we're going to take a look at that. And if we find those dyslexic tendencies, great news. We already have the programming that fits the needs of that. We've already provided the professional development. You've got the professional developers right here. We just provide that back out to our tutors, our new classroom teachers, our veteran classroom teachers who had never heard the word schwa before they had foundations and other fun things. So we provide that professional expertise for them. And I think the next slide just tells you basically what we have done this year. If they demonstrate those dyslexic markers, we are required to give them a double dose of that intervention outside of the classroom in a smaller group in that high dosage model. So we have a lot of fun in Reading Club. We have a lot of instruction in Reading Club. We really want them to come to us. And so if you've ever thought that reading is tough, Reading Club will get you through. And that's what we do. So I pass it on to Carrie. You're next. Yes.
It is me. It's my turn again. Well, obviously we are all general education teachers, or some of us were beforehand, and we are now intervention coaches, but we have come with many, many years of experience, but we also have a skill set and have been trained to do what we do. We have been trained in proctoring, but more importantly, analyzing the DIBELS data, the OST, the AST, the ACT, the STAR, all that alphabet soup up there. We have been trained to analyze that data and then take that data and turn it into meaningful quality instruction for these students so that they can make growth and progress their way through and ultimately graduate and go be out in the real world and take all of this knowledge with them. We spent our summer becoming certified in all the different intervention programs that we use. So there's Just Words is our phonics program, Number Worlds is our math program, Foundations is reading and phonics. We have all these programs that we have been specifically trained to administer and, like I said, more importantly, to analyze that data, to use it to benefit the students so that they can have the exact instruction and filling those missing blocks in, filling those gaps that they might have and making that wall stronger.
All right, that was a whole lot. So first of all, thank you for your patience in listening to all of this. As we were talking and we were preparing all of this, one of the things we want to talk about was like the numerous success stories that we've had with students along the way. And I think I'm going to sum it up by one little student saying, you know what, I really like coming to Reading Club because I'm good at it when I'm here. I'm good at reading when I'm here, and I don't feel like I'm good at it in that room, in the other classroom, because they have some struggles that they're still working on. And that's the key, is that we're helping these students, we're starting to screen them at a very young age to identify those missing skills so we can help them fill in those skill gaps, because at the end of the day, we want their foundation to be rock solid when they walk across our stage of graduation. We want to prepare our students for their future, no matter what that is for them. And we need to make sure that we have filled all those holes in along the way for all of our students. So again, thank you, and our students say thank you as well.
I'd like to thank our instructional coaches for presenting tonight, as well as Stephanie for being a part of that conversation. I know Mr. Herman's been working with them as well. The one thing that as I listen to that, that I hear, and I think about our students who struggle in the classroom, if we can give them that opportunity to where we're identifying their struggles, academic struggles, and we're working with them individually to help them progress to grade level and/or above grade level. That allows us also to help them because in other ways. We talk about, we believe student success is academic growth plus personal growth. And if you can times that by hope, right, we believe that they can be successful. And so what we're doing is creating hope within students. We're allowing them to see that they can be successful in other ways, in other environments within their struggles. And we're helping them get to a point where they can go into that regular classroom and feel comfortable reading. And that creates that hope for them to be successful moving forward. We're building those skills of hope within them by showing them how they can be successful because we're giving them and working with them to develop those skills so that they can be successful. And if we can do that early on and we can continue that process along the way, because some kids may struggle in middle school and some may struggle in junior high or high school. If we can work with them along that way, then we're also talking about reducing attendance issues, disciplinary issues. We're also looking at graduation rate, and how do we get them to that finish line so they can be successful along the way. And I think that's the great work that these individuals are doing, the tutors are doing, in collaboration with our teaching staff and our instructional staff. It's a phenomenal program, and they have done the work. They've researched it, they've put the time in, they know what they're doing, they're experts in the field. We've had administrators and teachers come in from other districts and see what they're doing as an exemplar to reproduce in their districts. So I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done in and out of your normal days, because I know it's been time consuming for you in support with the building administrators to develop this program to what it is today. And thank you for that. So I just wanted to say that to you. Do you guys have questions for them about the program?
How long has the MTSS, how long have we been doing that?
Actually, I can share a little bit of that. MTSS is not new. We've called it like response to intervention. And so that is something that has been in place for a very long time. I think what we have accomplished, though, and can be proud of, is that actually where they were talking at the beginning of it, it was building some skills and possibly like working with individuals that might not have been completing homework and performing in the classroom as they could or should. But I think what we've done is actually we've taken it to a different level through the coaches. What they are able to do is actually, when they were talking about diagnosis, they will look at all the children, and when you can see it happening, it's actually amazing. When you're thinking that every student in this district, first of all, they are going to benchmark that student, and then they're going to look at every student to determine what skills are needed in order to prioritize those students. And when you're talking that they are working with 20 to 25% of the students across the district, that's giving those students opportunities that they haven't had, but they're not just helping them so they're successful in the classroom. I think the more, where we're at this point is they're actually being able to determine the skills that child may be lacking. And they, through specific training, they're able to provide those skills to the students so that they can go back and be successful then in the classroom, which then helps, as they said at the beginning of the presentation, it helps accomplish the district's goal of helping them be prepared for, after graduation.
I think, too, one of the powerful things that I've seen from sitting in meetings where teachers are coming in, talking about their individual students and some progression or maybe regression sometimes with the individual students with our instructional coaches and tutors are very powerful conversations because it's about an individual student. What are they seeing? Can we adjust to make sure that we're meeting the needs? Some students will be in Tier 3 and can go back to Tier 2, and some students maybe have Tier 2 concerns and they move to Tier 3 because something's not going right, and we try to adjust. But ultimately, those conversations are very powerful in trying to make sure that all of our students are moving towards having that Tier 1 instruction, which is in the regular classroom and being successful in And it's not just reading and math, right? Because we know that those skills transcend into the other areas that they're taking, classes and electives and so forth.
And I may not completely answer it. I believe that actually the entire process has been in existence for at least 11 years. That's 11 years ago is when we started hiring tutors. But then it's been for the past 3 years that we've had actually the coaches and have definitely seen the program, progress into a very strong intervention program for the students.
Yeah, I think the RTI program started when I came over to this building, and I think it was when I was director of curriculum that our special education department started working with an RTI, response to intervention, and that's what's morphed into the MTSS program, which would have been 2007, maybe 2008.
I have a friend who, her children just started in the district a year after mine. I spoke, she was like, what do you think of the district? I was like, it's amazing. So I like to think that I had a little part of her, like, coming into the district. But she was in tears one morning at breakfast because her son struggled so much in reading where he was and needed just special, and he just was so dejected. I think he came in at 3rd grade, and the mom was just in tears on how supportive the White House primary staff was, and just one school year, the incredible progress that he made. So I didn't know if it had been like very recent, if it's been in place for a while, but I know she would want me to say to you all, thank you for that program, because, yeah.
I think that we would be amazed, and when you're looking at the data, the amount of progress that the students are making. But also, you'd be amazed when you're talking about the one student receiving additional services. You have a student that actually is still very active in the regular classroom, but receiving additional services for reading, specific, skills, and then also on top of that, working with executive functioning and so forth through special education, which is going to be then, again, a specific teacher. So we are very proud of the supports that we're able to provide.
I'll say thanks too I think that's an awesome presentation. I love hearing those, especially from the teachers. It just shows how much we put into that, how much we care. And, it's obviously just a little taste of what the requirements are that a lot of people don't realize. And I think the more we get the word out there to see all the stuff that we have to do, but how much extra we do as well. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Just one other item I did want to mention is Carrie asked you for work sessions to discuss the Department of Education Workforce Financial Deficit Plan. Just a reminder, as we talk about this, it has to be submitted to the Ohio Department of Education, approved by January 31st. Carrie and I already have, I think, 5, or is it 4? 4 meetings with them set up in the month of January to discuss the progress of developing the plan, and there are specific parts that she has to do within the 5-year forecast as the board chooses the options, that will be in that plan. We know that in fiscal year 25, that's $746,178, and in fiscal year 26, it's $3.6 million, just over that. And we'll talk about that in those work sessions, and the financial options to either increase revenue or decrease expenditures to balance that cash balance out for those 2 fiscal years. And that's that goal, right, is to look at and understand our mission of trying to make sure that all students are ready upon graduation for whatever they choose to do, and understand then we've got some tough decisions to make from a financial perspective of how do we balance that budget moving forward with those significant numbers in our sites. So, more to come on that in our work sessions that we've set up. So I just wanted to mention that moving forward. Educational agreements, there's 2 listed there. This is, I know we have 3 new board members. I just want to kind of talk about these in the sense of, the first one is actually for an individual student, sending them to a specialized school based on their individual needs. New student moving in, this is the best environment for them. And in this situation, it's a core place student, so what that means is that will be billable back to previous district. We pay for it this year, but then next year, we hope to get some of that reimbursed for that expense. But I just wanted to explain that to you because that's a little unique in that. And we have a transportation agreement. We have a homeless student. And, we're required by law to transport that student back to the school district to educate them. And, we look at what's, the best transportation system, but also the cheapest to make sure that we're efficient in our spending. And in this case, we're going to employ the parent to do that, which is an option within the homeless regulations. It's cheaper than hiring the taxi or the Uber, and it's also cheaper than us trying to figure out how we're going to get an individual bus driver to drive a bus to pick up that student and bring them back from Toledo. So we look at all options, and in that case, that's what we're choosing to do and asking you to approve. So that's my report for that section. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'd ask that you approve those 2 items, A and B, in one motion.
Have any questions for Dr. Fritz? If not, I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Lindsay, in a second. Carrie, can you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stom?
Yes.
Number 8, superintendent's personnel recommendation.
Thank you. This is very short. We have a special education is relocating. And so there we thank Jill for her service to the district. We're hiring a special education aide, Sarah McGill, in item B. Item C are substitute employees as listed, and that's specifically for OST tutors and those individuals listed for that. We have a supplemental for one of our teachers in the district who's going to help coach softball at 50% of being assistant coach. Item E are contract amendments that we're recommending at this time. I believe that is all the items in that section.
Any questions for Dr. Fritz on that? If not, I need a motion to approve.
I'll move to,
And a second.
I will second.
All right. Carrie, can you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
Yes.
McKnight?
yes?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stom?
Yes.
Section number 9 will do recognition of visitors. Do we?
We don't have anybody who asked to speak tonight?
All right, well, fantastic. Well, in that case, we'll move to executive session if we have a motion for that.
I'll motion for it.
Perfect. Lindsay, in a second.
I will second it.
Carrie, can you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stom?
Yes.
So we're going to executive session to discuss personnel and personnel recommendations, things like that. You are not required to stay. We will be in there for quite some time, I'm assuming. We will not be conducting any business when we return, so you are free to go. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. We do want to take a
I'm sorry, you said we're good? All right. Carrie, we would like to come out of executive session. Could you please call roll, please?
Need a motion first.
Oh, motion, I'm sorry, you're right. I'm sorry, motion to come out of executive session.
I will make the motion.
I'll second it.
Carrie, can you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
All right, and I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Carrie, can you please call roll?
Mr. Baden?
Yes.
Mrs. Hopkemeyer?
Yes.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Jersey is.
Oh, okay.